Do you know who Uzzah is? Have you ever heard of the man whose actions brought a joyous celebration to a screeching halt? What would compel someone to touch what is untouchable? And why would a single moment of reflexive action lead to such a tragic end? These questions stir the imagination and beckon us into one of the most striking stories in ancient Israel's history, the story of Uzzah and the Ark of the Covenant. If you love captivating Bible stories like this, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more expository Bible stories. It was a day of celebration in ancient Israel, a day long anticipated and now brimming with joy and reverence. The Ark of the Covenant, the sacred chest crafted in the wilderness during Israel's exodus from Egypt, was finally being brought to Jerusalem, the city of David. The Ark was no ordinary relic. It was the symbol of God's presence, a holy vessel, containing the stone tablets of the law, Aaron's rod that budded, and a pot of manna. To the people of Israel, it was a reminder of God's covenant, His holiness, and His guidance through their tumultuous history. The day's events were carefully orchestrated. King David himself led the procession, dancing with all his might before the Lord, clothed in a linen ephod. Musicians played harps, lyres, cymbals, and trumpets, their melodies weaving a tapestry of worship that filled the air. The people's shouts of jubilation echoed through the valleys as the Ark, carried on a newly built cart, made its way up the rugged paths toward Jerusalem. But amidst the rejoicing, a subtle tension lingered. The Ark was not being carried as prescribed in the law of Moses. Instead of being borne on poles by Levites, it rested on an ox-drawn cart, echoing the Philistine method of transport when they returned the Ark after capturing it years before. Among the throng accompanying the Ark were two brothers, Uzzah and Ahio, sons of Abinadab. The Ark had been in their father's house for decades, ever since it was returned from Philistine territory. To Uzzah, the Ark was a familiar presence, perhaps so familiar that its sacredness became a concept rather than a reality. The brothers had likely grown up hearing stories about the Ark and its significance, yet their prolonged proximity may have dulled their sense of reverence. As the oxen plodded forward, Uzzah and Ahio walked beside the cart, their task seemingly straightforward: ensure the Ark's safe passage. The procession advanced, but the road was treacherous, winding and uneven. The sun blazed overhead, casting long shadows as the crowd moved slowly but steadily. Families lined the path, children running alongside the cart, their laughter mingling with the melodies of the musicians. The atmosphere was electric, yet in the midst of the celebration, a sense of foreboding lingered. Some in the crowd whispered among themselves, questioning whether the Ark should be transported in this way. Others dismissed such concerns, too caught up in the joy of the moment to consider the potential consequences of their actions. As the cart approached the threshing floor of Nacon, the oxen stumbled. The uneven ground caused the cart to tilt precariously, and the Ark shifted slightly. Gasps rippled through the crowd as people instinctively stepped back, their joy momentarily replaced by fear. In that fleeting moment, a heartbeat's decision, Uzzah reached out his hand to steady the Ark. His intentions were noble, even instinctive, driven by a desire to protect the sacred object from falling. But what followed was shocking. In an instant, Uzzah fell to the ground, struck dead by God for his irreverent act. The jubilant crowd fell silent, their songs of celebration replaced by gasps of horror. The musicians' instruments fell silent, and even the oxen seemed to pause. King David's joy turned to fear and anger. He stood frozen, staring at Uzzah's lifeless body, his mind racing with questions. Why would God respond so severely? After all, wasn't Uzzah simply trying to protect the Ark from falling? Wasn't his act one of service and devotion? Yet beneath the surface of the tragedy lay deeper truths about the holiness of God and humanity's approach to the sacred. To understand the gravity of Uzzah's action, one must delve into the divine instructions regarding the ark. God had given explicit commands in the law. The ark was to be carried on poles by Levites, never touched, and treated with utmost reverence. These instructions were not arbitrary, but were meant to instill a profound sense of God's holiness. By placing the ark on a cart, even a new one, and disregarding these commands, David and his people had already veered from God's prescribed way. Uzzah's touch, though seemingly minor, was the culmination of a series of irreverent actions. The crowd slowly dispersed, their hearts heavy with grief and confusion. David ordered the ark to be placed in the house of Obed-edom, a nearby resident, and the procession came to an abrupt halt. For 3 months, the ark remained in Obed-edom's household, and during that time, his family experienced extraordinary blessings. Their crops flourished, their livestock multiplied, and peace filled their home. News of these blessings spread quickly, and whispers of hope began to replace the sorrow that had gripped the people. David, meanwhile, spent those months in deep reflection. He sought the counsel of priests and Levites, delving into the scriptures to understand where he had gone wrong. He realized that his earlier actions had been rooted in zeal, but not in obedience. David's humility in acknowledging his mistake marked a turning point in the story. He resolved to bring the ark to Jerusalem in the proper manner, adhering strictly to God's commands. When the journey resumed, it was markedly different. Levites carried the ark on poles, as the law required. Sacrifices were offered every 6 steps, and the air was thick with the aroma of burnt offerings. David led the procession once more, dancing with even greater fervor than before, but now with a heart full of reverence and understanding. The musicians played with renewed vigor, their melodies echoing through the hills as the ark approached the gates of Jerusalem. The ark's arrival in the city of David was a moment of triumph. People lined the streets, waving palm branches and singing praises to God. The ark was placed in a specially prepared tent, and David offered additional sacrifices to honor the Lord. He distributed food to the crowd, ensuring that everyone shared in the joy of the occasion. It was a day that would be remembered for generations, a testament to the blessings that come from honoring God's holiness. In our own lives, we may find ourselves in moments where the sacred feels distant, or where our intentions, though good, fall short of true reverence. Uzzah's story invites us to approach God with faith, courage, and hope, recognizing that His holiness is not a barrier, but a call to draw near in the right way. It reminds us that while God is merciful and loving, He is also holy and worthy of our deepest respect. What about you? How do you approach the sacred in your own life? Have you ever had moments where familiarity dulled your sense of reverence for God? What steps can you take to cultivate a deeper awareness of His holiness? Let's continue this conversation in the comments below. Share your thoughts, your reflections, and your questions. We'd love to hear from you. If this story has resonated with you, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and click the notification bell so you won't miss any of our future content. Share this with someone who might be encouraged by this message, and let's grow together in faith and understanding. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.